I call the meeting of the Lancaster Community Preservation Committee to order at 6 p.m. on the 18th of April. Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. I see no public to make a comment, so we're just going to breeze right along. We have the minutes to approve. Margot and I were talking. We added a note to the 3:14, 24 minutes that we adjourned around 6:45. Does anybody have a recollection different than that?
Sorry, Linnea, you need to call the roll.
Oh, you should be my parliamentarian. Okay.
No, thanks.
And we're going to do the roll call. I'm here, Linnea Serby. Margot, are you here?
Here. I'm here.
Marilyn?
Here.
And Tom?
Here.
All right. Then we had no public comment, and we'll get to the minutes. There was, so this meeting on what day was it?
I think it was the 14th and
the 14th. Yeah. Does anybody have a recollection different than adjourning at 6:45-ish? I know it didn't run super late, and Margot had a previous commitment. And
I had left early, so I wasn't sure of the time.
Okay.
I don't have notes for that.
Okay. Did you read the minutes? Anybody have any questions or additions, subtractions from the minutes for the 14th?
Looks good to me.
Okay, I read it over and I'm reading it over again now. I didn't see anything in those minutes. Then let's move on to the minutes of the 27th, and we can vote to approve both together. I didn't see anything else in here.
I'm good with both.
Okay. Any other comments, Marilyn, Margot? Seen anything that jumps out at you?
Well, nope, not since I wrote them and read them a bazillion times.
Okay. Can we have a motion to enter these minutes in as written from the March 14th meeting and the March 27th, 2024 meeting? Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion. Then I'll second.
Okay, so Margot moves it and Tom seconds it. Any other discussion? Let's take a roll call vote. Myself, yes. Margot?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
And Tom?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Want to bring you up to date that the warrant articles were run by town council with just minor wording changes, and they are being printed up very close to what we wrote them at. There was just a minor thing about procurement, and we will vote them individually as we had originally asked. And I want to show you the presentation that Wynn and I came up with last year and was tweaked for this year. Do you see this? Town meeting?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, so we have about 5 minutes. We may have to cut some of these down, but we can talk fast. So this is town meeting. Recap what CPA is, the designations which we are allowed to spend on, the recap of the 1% annual surcharge, the exemptions. The first 100,000 is deducted, and then we have ownership of low income and low income, moderate income senior housing can get a deduction. And this other one, taxpayer receiving a regular property tax abatement or exemption. And then just who we are, that we were formed in 2021, educating the community, soliciting submissions, oversight of the CPA budgets. Oh, and we've got someone here. I don't know who joined. Let me see if I
Hi,
can.
this is Regina.
Hi, Regina. You were able to make it. Great.
I am sitting in Salt Lake City Airport, just loving this meeting.
I was once there. It was very unmemorable.
Oh, it's a brand new airport. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's
It's
nice.
beautiful.
I just remember the mountains all the way around.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're picking up with the presentation we're going to make at town meeting. And do you see the slides I'm working with from the PowerPoint presentation?
I'm signing into that now.
Okay, great. Okay, so the next slide is just basically showing what our revenues were for the fiscal year 2023. This is what we raised locally. This was the state contribution. We got no state budget surplus. There was none. So this was our total contribution. Well, last year we had 60,000 plus. So it was a little disappointing, but we had 199,718 to work with. And these are our 3 projects. We had 4 projects, but one was withdrawn. That was the tennis courts. So we have the town beach gate and shed at 3,500. The project management for the land acquisition for a total of 38,000. This is the 10% from the open space and recreation, and the remainder comes from the undesignated fund. And with the library, out of historic preservation, same thing. And the rest comes from the undesignated. And then it's just a little bit about the project. Very hard to deal with, and moving it so it'll be more efficient for the parking. And here's some photos of the condition of the gate now. And here's their memorial, the renovations. And here are some of the photos of what needs to be fixed. Here, the masonry failing. And then our project management and professional services for the 5 properties, 648 acres, legacy program, and the land is not appropriate for development. And there's the map of the properties and just a scenic picture of probably a vernal pool. And that's it. Do you think I did that in 5 minutes?
I think that was less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, me too.
I was talking really fast. So yeah, any suggestions or comments? What do you think?
I think you did a good job. I like it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's concise and to the point, and I think
Right.
it's going to be good. I think it can be done in 5 minutes without you having to rush like crazy. Now, are
Yeah.
you or is Wynn presenting?
We haven't decided yet. I'm having shoulder replacement surgery on the 2nd. So barring that I'm in not a ton of pain, I might show up. Or if anybody else wants to present, I'd be more than welcome for that.
I'm not making any suggestions for anyone. I was just asking just so I know in my head.
Last year we did it together. He kind of did the rec projects and I did the historic projects. So it may be a combination, or if I really don't feel like I'm ready for prime time and getting up in front of people, having surgery on Thursday and going to town meeting on Monday, maybe he'll do it. But like I said, if anybody else wants to, love
So,
to
Linnea,
have people participate. Pardon me?
If Wynn's not able to do it, I'd be happy to do it.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
I imagine I'll be speaking for the commission's warrant articles, so
Okay.
adding another one is fine.
Okay.
That's wonderful. Thank you, because I do not like presenting publicly at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I start out okay, then I get nervous in the middle, and then I start tripping over my words. So I would think that it should get easier, but some people can do it. Some people are less comfortable with it. So
Well, I feel like I'm going to barf, so that's a really not a good thing.
well, this is not a good thing.
No.
And then we have a handout, if I can only find it, that I've been working on to kind of as our report card that Kate said she'd be happy to have printed and, at the tables with information. I'm just trying to find my town meeting folder. It was just a 1-page. It would say that we, what we collected, what we had left over from last year. That housing has not spent any of their money. And here, I found it. Just needs to open. Nope, wrong one. Sorry. It was short and sweet. It was the kind of thing that, here we go. Here we go. Just move it to the screen. This is what we did last year, 2 pages.
We don't see it, Linnea.
You
we
don't?
We still see the presentation.
So let me try sharing my screen again. It gets so messy trying to do this. I'm sorry. It says I'm sharing my screen. How about I close that one and open this one? You see it now?
Yeah, you're not sharing anymore?
I think we see your desktop.
Yeah. You don't see this?
Ooh,
Something's
that
coming
was
now.
odd. I saw the,
Yep, now we see it.
Okay. So this is, it was front and back, just kind of a recap. And I'm just trying to figure out how to format it so I can do you think a year-to-year comparison would be good? Or just put last year's and then the accumulated funds balance forward to next year kind of thing? I just think, I think it's kind of important to give people an idea of that the money is, we may not have spent it all, but we're saving it. So, and it says,
I think it's good to show the completed projects too. So knowing that you've spent last year's and what it was
okay.
and completed, I think that's kind of neat. And here's this year's.
Yeah, because the library windows are in progress. The first church portico actually came in under budget, and the middle cemetery assessment is ongoing, but these 3 are done. And actually the dugouts were donated, so we have that money left over. So yeah, I can work on that, but basically that's just the kind of thing that we did last year. I don't know if anybody remembers it from last year or not. So
I think the more information we can include in that little handout, it will be helpful for people.
Okay. All right. Well, I will be working on that. That isn't due till like the last week of April, so I can get that in order. Anybody have anything else we want to add to this? Any other thoughts or suggestions? Okay.
I mean, I think with the couple of things that we talked about, I think it looks good. And I think it was effective last year. And, we've got projects that are done. So it's just showing more what, where our tax money is going.
Yeah, that we're not just sitting on it and nothing's
right,
happening.
in a positive way. Exactly.
Okay, great. I'll just have to rework these tables a little bit. And then we will be able to, show the comparison.
I'd be happy to take a stab at it if you want to send it to me.
I'd love that. Perfect. Yeah, I can send you this one and what I've been working on for this year.
Okay.
And that would be great. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay. All right. Then let's go on to number 4, the discussion of the open meeting laws and our committee's practices. Marilyn and I both attended an open meeting law training. Was it last week, Marilyn?
Yeah.
It was online.
Yep.
And that was very informative. And I don't think we're too far off base on most things. But erring on the side of caution is probably always a good idea when we're deliberating. Marilyn, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, my big takeaway was about deliberating and how whatever we do, if we're not deliberating, we're pretty good. We're fine. I was also surprised to learn that the only required postings are the meetings, meeting notices. Even minutes aren't required to be posted, but best
As
practice.
long as we keep them.
Right. So, right, exactly. So for record retention, so why not use the town website for that record retention? It makes perfect sense instead of our desktop. So the clerk. And then the only other thing, if we're going to vote on a document, it doesn't have to be up on our website over on that panel, that left panel, but it should be part of the agenda where we post the meeting. Then you can add different documents. So I think it's supposed to be posted there if we're going to vote.
The practice of using the BCC to send things out, I still think that's okay as long as nobody answers to everybody, because BCC you can't answer to everybody. And it's okay if I send out meeting materials to everybody right before the meeting. That way there's no, if our meeting's at 6 and I send them out at 5:45 or 5:50, you have them so you can look at them, but that's not breaking the rules. So, anybody else want to add anything?
Just to echo what you just said, Lynn, I agree that if you send us documents right before the meeting, that's not going to be a violation.
Okay.
I've actually read that in one of the determinations where the Attorney General said that was actually acceptable because that was essentially contemporaneous with the meeting.
Right. Yeah, it was what was it, about an hour and a half presentation. They did take, some question and answer time. And if anybody has nothing to do for an hour and a half someday, it's probably well worth taking, the training for a refresher. So I was really glad to have done that.
It was kind of interesting to see too how other people step into issues, like using Google Docs is not something we should be doing, which I wouldn't have thought of that necessarily. Or we can.
I don't even know what Google Docs are.
You will not be in violation.
It's a document sharing place where people can store their docs and all work on them together collaboratively.
Well, I never did that in Groton, so because we didn't want to do. So yeah, so I was like, okay, good. I don't know anything about it, so I'm safe.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I think we're not too far off. And if we just keep going in the, err on the side of transparency and caution, I think we'll be okay. So just wanted to kind of get that one out on the table. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none. The next item is discussing and establishing tracking project expenses and the approval process. I've been working with Cheryl Garapi, the town finance office, director. And a while back, I sent everybody something that the town of Groton uses. Do you remember that at all? Okay. And Cheryl is in favor of doing it that way. The only hitch that we've got so far is the project management piece, and then a liaison we have to kind of establish who's going to be the point people. So if I can find that email, I will share that. Okay. Where did it go? Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay, do you see this? The email?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so in Groton, the project manager needs to sign the invoice and indicate the work was completed and met the requirements of the job. Then next, the CPC reviews the invoice, signs it, and sends it to the town accountant to be put on the warrant for payment. And in Lancaster, they do that twice a month. When the project is approved by town meeting, the CPC assigns one of its members to be a project liaison, and it is his or her responsibility to also make sure that work is completed. So that person would be in touch with the project manager and, be the second set of eyes, is the way I read that. At project closeout, the CPC sends a letter to the project manager indicating that the last invoice was paid by the town and asks them to confirm there are no other outstanding project invoices. When the CPC gets the confirming letter back, another letter is sent to the town accountant indicating that it is okay to close out the project. At the end of the year, any balances remaining after the project closeout are returned to bin from which the project was funded. I think he meant the bin, same thing as the account. And they're not sent to moved to the account requester's account. They're kept in a special account, which is Lancaster has set up. So the CPC money remains CPC money and it never gets mixed. So we didn't have this procedure last year. And does anybody have any other thoughts? This seems, Cheryl is happy with it.
So
And-
Linnea,
Yeah.
can you explain to me what project manager is? Is that
That is
someone
the
in
point
town?
person. No, if it's a huge project, say we were in a perfect world, we were renovating the town hall to the tune of millions of dollars. There would be a project manager or a clerk of the works. And that is the person who is tracking the progress of the project and also verifying the invoices that the work was done according to it's like wherever you work, your accounts payable department, when they get a bill, it goes to whoever has signed the PO and they need to verify that the work meets the PO. Then it goes back and gets paid. So the project manager is kind of watching all the work and making sure it's done properly. So it would be a project point person or, huge project would have a manager. Otherwise, it's a point person.
And that person is the project sponsor, the one who proposed?
Yes.
Okay.
And in
It's not
Lancaster,
sorry to interrupt. It's not a town employee. It's the
would be in some cases.
Oh, okay.
Because our town administrator is our procurement officer. So she would be kind of, monitoring those projects in conjunction with somebody who's hands-on working with them, like the rec department, for instance, with the fence and the field refurbishing.
Okay, got it. Understood. Thanks.
Yeah. So we've got more than one set of eyes looking at it. But this is an area that we didn't know about before. Lancaster hasn't been doing this. Groton has been doing this for 20 some odd years. They were one of the initial towns to sign up with CPA. So Cheryl is in the process of writing up a document, and I'll run that by the committee again. But I just wanted you to know we're working on it, and it's my background was accounting and I did receivables, but I had to cover for the payables people, and it's just a process. You want to make sure everything is approved according to generally accepted accounting principles, and you have a document that is your guiding principle. You do this, you do this, you do this. So that's just what we want to set up as a procedure, so we get it right and down the road when we're watching other people do wonderful projects with CPC money, that we've set it up correctly, and they can build on it later on.
So
So-
is it the liaison who is signing the invoice?
Well, as a committee, I think we'd look at it.
Okay.
And the liaison would work with the project manager.
Mhm.
For instance, if it's a historic project, would we want the historic person being the liaison? Probably not. We'd ask somebody else to do it because they might be the point person. You need segregation of duties.
Mhm.
I think that makes sense. Like maybe rec would somebody from rec might sit in and say, hey, let's look at the work. Has this been done? That kind of thing.
Okay.
That's the way I envision it. And Bruce Esom from Concord is their treasurer. And when we'll have some turnover with officer or the committee, we should probably, sit down, look at who wants to be treasurer, who wants to be secretary, who wants to be chairperson, vice chair, that kind of stuff. But I think we can redo that in June. Because I've kind of been acting as the treasurer because our person unfortunately passed away. So, just somebody who's good with a spreadsheet would be, an excellent person to do that. Yeah, and in September, we have the CPC is responsible for filling out the CPC 3 form, which is due to the state on, I believe, September 15th. There's a CPC 1 that the town submits that says what our collections were. There's a CPC 2 form. I forget exactly what that is, but it's another one the town does, something about any other money that's come in from previous years, whatever. It's just another check-in form. And then we do the CP3, which they want to know what the project is. Is it still open? What's been spent? What, the remaining time frame is. Since it's a state law, they like to know exactly where the money is going. They track it that way. So that's all I have on the agenda for tonight. I did a lot of talking. Does anybody else have anything they want to add or something to put on the agenda for next month?
So Linnea, I do have a question about
Sure.
some of this administration that has to go on. Do we get any staff support from town hall, or is it just all of us?
No, we get Cheryl has been very helpful, the town the town finance director, but she's learning right along with us. We do not have any paid support.
Okay, that's a bummer.
Yeah, we could opt to hire somebody with our administrative funds, but we only get $10,000 a year, roughly speaking. So we could create a position and a job description and have somebody work in the town hall for us, maybe 10 hours a month kind of thing. But otherwise, no, we do it all. I put together the agendas. I asked the town clerk to post the agendas. I schedule the Zoom meetings. It's kind of we're a volunteer committee.
Yeah, and that poses challenges. So in Concom, so we do have a conservation agent. Finally, we just joined us this week, our replacement conservation agent. And
oh, good, lock the door and don't let them leave.
I know, right? and I can tell you from my experience of having to do a bunch of the administrative work that it really is a part-time job. At a minimum, and that's to do it not correct and not completely. But so for a long time, Concom did have an agent. We've had an agent in Lancaster for, I don't know, almost a decade. But originally the agent was only a part-time position, and that was funded out of a special fund that is paid for by the wetland filing fees. So if we have this administrative fund, we may be able to partially fund an employee or partially fund a part of someone who already works for the town and they get additional duties to help us out. But I think it's a little bit unfair for us to have a lot of administrative work as volunteers. If it really gets complicated, I don't know, I haven't been on the committee long enough to see how it really works, but my experience on Concom tells me that once you start talking about having to fill out forms that the state is going to be on you for, and having to do accounting and what you just showed us with the processes, that's pretty burdensome for a bunch of volunteers who don't do this as a day job.
Yeah. I have personally relied on the coalition, the Community Preservation Coalition, which is like our trade group. They have lots of resources, project information on the laws. I can shoot an email to them, and they are always very helpful. But yeah, it's like, since we're new, you don't know what you don't know, and they'll send an email. Oh, you didn't send this form. We've checked with the state. And that's how I found out about the CP3 form. And it's just something you register and you do online. It's pretty simple, but it is time consuming, and you want the numbers to be right. So, yeah, it's something we should think about and look at other towns and see what other towns do, because that's what CPCs do. They don't reinvent the wheel. They try to borrow the best of the best from what other towns have learned. So it is definitely something we need to think about.
Well, as a retired humble civil servant, I think it would be really helpful for us to have someone to at least make sure, because like the financial stuff, I'm terrible with figures, so I wouldn't want to have to be responsible for that. I would feel terrible,
Well, spreadsheets are my thing. I love spreadsheets, and Cheryl and I compare notes back and forth all the time. So we double check each other's, she sends me the collections, and then I look at it and, come up with a budget, and I've been tracking the expenses as she is. So it would be nice to have somebody whose job it was and their sole responsibility.
Especially if there are deadlines involved. Because I know that, from my perspective, for my paying job, I made sure for the ZBA that all legal deadlines were met, and because they actually created my position, I wasn't the first person on it, but the board was doing it, and permits ended up being granted because the decisions weren't filed in a timely fashion, and it's a volunteer board. So anyway, that's just my 10 cents worth.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to do is just have a simple calendar, a CPC calendar. This deadline is the CPC form. Check that, check with Cheryl, make sure she got the CP1, CP3, 2, and just have a calendar of when we need to. It's like our rolling deadline for projects. We need to really have it cut off by a certain time. We can review them, but then we have to decide what's going to town meeting. And that, everything had to be in by the end of March.
Right.
Yeah. And you've got deadlines all the way along and there'll be a dry run of the town meeting. I think the 29th at the select board meeting. We'll be going, all the articles will be, gone through, and it's kind of like a practice, a rehearsal for the town meeting. So if anybody wants to attend, either Win or I will be attending that, but the more the merrier. Will be at 7:00 in the Nashaway room. The next town select board meeting.
So you said on April 29th?
Yeah, I believe so.
And it's
Whatever the
at,
next select board meeting is. I could check
and
my
it's
email.
at 6?
The meeting starts at 6. Let me see. No, I'm looking in my inbox. I had an email here from Kate somewhere. It's at the next select board meeting. I don't have that committed to memory.
Well, that's easy enough to find out. I just
Yeah.
wanted to put it in my calendar.
Well, the way my Outlook groups all my messages, sometimes I can't find them. Sorry, I'm just taking a quick look. I don't mean to be wasting people's time. The review meeting will be held Monday, May 29 in the Nashway meeting room.
Oh,
The
it's
select
May
board
20.
meeting-
It's May 29?
Am I looking at the right year? I think she had a typo.
Yeah, it would have to be Monday, the 29th, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, this month, that's,
I think she just missed and said May when she meant April. And then the warrant review will be at 6:30 and just run through our articles 8 and 9. So if anybody wants to come or tune in, more than welcome. The more the merrier.
Oh, so we can tune in on Zoom. We don't have to be there in person.
No, but I think either Win or I will be there just because one of us or Tom will be presenting at town meeting. So just wanted to let everybody know that happened last year. They did it in the town hall proper. But I think the town hall is now like a hazmat site because of mold that got in from a water leak. So that's being remediated.
Oh, I hadn't heard about that. That's
me
a
either.
bummer.
Yeah.
Is it on the first floor, the ground floor?
I think the cellar, but
Yeah.
mold tends to,
Mm-hmm.
and if you have a sensitivity to it, you don't want to be anywhere near it. And I don't know the progress on that. I just was in the Prescott building last week and heard that news. So, all right. I want to set our next meeting, which will be after town meeting, and hopefully we'll get the great support that we got last year. So that would be our next meeting would be May 16 at 6 o'clock. And hopefully we, any agenda items you want, let me know. And I'll try to get some of these dates out to people. And if anybody wants to do any research for an agent, or I don't even know what we'd call them, administrator for the CPC, feel welcome to go out and look around and see what other towns have. The community preservation website will have on it sometimes town of, is looking for someone 10 hours a week, or, if it's Boston, I think has a full-time person, obviously, because they must have tons and tons of projects and money. Like we should look to Stowe or to Berlin, our neighboring towns, Air. Air recently went from 1% to 3%. Because they were having such a fabulous success with their programs, the town wanted it. We're building a new high school. I don't think that was something our town would be receptive to right now. But, CP, I just love this program, and I think we can do a lot of good things with it. So the next meeting is set. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make
So
a motion
moved.
to adjourn.
Okay, everybody was talking at once. Do we, who was that? Margot? Regina?
Sure. I think we all did it at the same time.
Okay, I'll say.
Go with Margot.
Okay. So the second was Regina?
Yes, please, seconded.
Okay. And let's take a roll call vote. Myself, yes. Margot?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
And Regina?
Yes.
Okay, thank you everybody for your time. Come to town meeting and vote yes and support our wonderful projects. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.